Hi and welcome to an INFJ's take on an INFP. I think INFPs can come across as almost sort of tortured souls because they're on a sort of lifelong quest for total unity and integration of mind, soul and body. There's always seems to be a whole lot of sort of unanswered questions, which, again, as I've said at another stage, they're quite content with those unanswered questions. From an INFJ perspective, when an INFJ picks up on that, their NI can sort of pick up all of this unfinished business, if you like, and because of the J in the INFJ, they like to have bookends to things. They like to have closure or a sense of understanding on an issue. They don't like to have things unfinished. An INFJ is quite comfortable to revisit those issues if it's necessary and unpack it again and maybe make some changes to what they believe or how they're going to approach something or whatever. But there needs to be a certain amount of closure and it needs to be sort of put back in its place nice and neatly. Whereas an INFP, there doesn't need to be that closure. They're kind of always open-ended. They're always adding to. And it could be tempting for some INFJs to want to tidy up the INFP, to try to help them to come to some kind of closure or understanding or conclusion. And it's not a good way to go. The INFP will not appreciate that and will actually consider it rather a shallow way of addressing them. Like I've said previously, the best thing that an INFJ can do is really just reflect what they're hearing back to the INFP. That seems to have a way of, like an INFP might just be sharing over here and sharing about this, and there might not be a sense of order to it. And an INFJ can sit there and kind of reflect it back with a sense of order and understanding, which seems to really help the INFP at times. They seem to really appreciate hearing a reflection, a tidy reflection of what they're sharing. That seems to be a lot more helpful than trying to put the bookends and the conclusions and to what the INFP is saying. If an INFP is coming to you to talk about something, it might signify that there's something pretty significant going on for the INFP, because generally speaking, they deal with issues more privately. With the FI dominant function, they're more inclined to be more independent with trying to deal with their issue. So for an INFP to go to another person and sort of open up could mean that they're under high stress, or could be a range of things. But if they're opening up about it, it's pretty significant. An INFJ, they're incredibly good at linking thoughts and feelings together in quite a seamless, logical, and in a lot of ways insightful stream. So they're able to sort of, once they get on a strand, on their inside, they're able to kind of follow that, around in quite an easy way. But for an INFP, it's like their strands are more like that on the inside. They kind of all just end like that. So whereas an INFJ might be following a train of thought and feeling, an INFJ is there's a sense that there's a whole heap of different thoughts and feelings and so on, but they don't necessarily all join together. They connect and they're all part of the same tree, but they don't link together. It's like they need to sort of travel down that thought and come back and go down this thought. That's my sense anyway. I could be wrong. Maybe some INFPs could shed some light on that illustration if it's accurate or not. When it comes to being the centre of attention, I think both the INFJ and the INFP find it about as uncomfortable as one another. They don't seem to be able to handle it for too long. Might be able to deal with it for a short amount of time, but after a while there's almost a sense of having their inner world sort of being slowly pushed into in some respects. I think though that one of the differences between the two types is that the INFP will probably do a better job at hiding the fact that they're starting to become uncomfortable with the attention, and I think that's generally due to the functional stack of the INFP being quite a private stack. That there's not a lot to give away the fact that they're uncomfortable. It might eventually come through, but I think they're better at hiding it. I think the INFJ has a more difficult time of hiding it because of the FE function. I think it's the discomfort will kind of leak out of their body language a lot easier than the INFP. I think one of the reasons for the discomfort with being the centre of attention is there doesn't seem to be any room to think about questions or a way of responding to what's happening. I mean, being the centre of attention requires a certain level of spontaneity, and I think both INFJs and INFPs can handle that again for a short time. But after a while, if anything, I think the spontaneity is more of a defense mechanism to try to protect the inside. And after a while, the energy that it takes to be spontaneous starts to wear out, and there's a sense of that attention sort of focusing in on the inner world of either the INFJ or the INFP. And there can be a sense of that world being invaded by people, which I think causes some level of discomfort or even anxiety. And so after maybe only a few minutes or 5 minutes, there's a real desire for that attention to go elsewhere, and there's a certain amount of relief that comes with that. So I hope you find the video helpful. I'll be interested in your comments. Feel free to subscribe to the channel. I'll be doing an INFJ's take on all of the different personality types. So yeah, feel free to subscribe, and thanks very much.